My father always told me, everything you do affects someone else. Never could that statement be truer than in the case of Arthur Blank. Now, I know we're conditioned to hate rich people, but most with any kind of heart could sympathize with what he's been through in the last few months. Mr. Blank is the owner of the Atlanta Falcons football team. He signed a young black quarterback by the name of Michael Vick to a $100+ million contract and let a competent backup go as a show of faith to Vick. We all know what's happened since. Vick hung out with the wrong people, financed and participated in a dogfighting racket, and has been since imprisoned. But when the initial investigation occurred, Vick was suspended from the Falcons. Remember, they already let their number 2 quarterback go, so there was initial turmoil going into the season with their new head coach, Bobby Petrino. The team was picketed, as if to say the Atlanta Falcons were synonymous with Michael Vick and dogfighting. Since then, the Falcons have won 3 out of 13 games. The actions of Vick have never worn off, and the team has gone through multiple quarterbacks with little or no success. Next, Falcons head coach Bobby Petrino announced his new coaching job at Arkansas Tuesday, just hours after his team was blown out on Monday Night Football, and hours after telling Arthur Blank that he was in Atlanta to stay. So with 3 weeks left to go in the season, the Atlanta Falcons have no superstar quarterback and no head coach. To add insult to injury, some are now calling for Blank's apology after he said during the Monday night broadcast, "There's a lot of roadblocks to Michael coming back and even playing in the National Football League, Tony. Let's assume he's out for 3 seasons, 07, 08, and 09. If he doesn't watch himself and eats a lot of fried chicken and fries in prison, comes out 215 pounds, he's not going to be the same athlete he was." The implication from that quote is, Arthur Blank is a racist. Now, while I don't know Mr. Blank, he knows Michael Vick, and for all we know, they may have had many a fried chicken dinner together in Atlanta. But with all this man has been through, all the money he shelled out to Vick and the other black people on the Atlanta Falcons football team just to see his team become a sorry soap, anyone who knee-jerks him as a racist is being an opportunist. I feel for Mr. Blank. He's a soft-spoken man and has watched his multi-million-dollar business tank in less than 4 months. None of this would be happening to him and the team if not for the actions of Michael Vick. Everything you do affects someone else.
One of the questions that I find interesting is this hypothetical. Let's say that Elizabeth Dole was this far along in the polls for the Republican nomination. Would she be subject to the same kinds of attacks? And I think the answer is no.
And you couldn't say, how are we going to defeat the nigger? How are we going to, which is the word that was so common when I was growing up in the South. How are you going to defeat the kike, referring to Jews? You wouldn't do it. That woman would not have done that, I don't think.
I hope some of you good, tolerant, inclusive people on the left remember what was done to Condoleezza Rice when she was nominated to be Secretary of State. There was no, even though she's a Republican, this is a great step for equality in America. No, the very people who lecture us all today about tolerance and inclusion are the very people who are not. Just ask Dr. Rice. They came here for several centuries for the same reasons, freedom and hope. And then a Frenchman created a statue that embodied their hopes and dreams. And it embodied America's promise as well. Give us your poor, your tired, your huddled masses, longing to be free. Is there a point where enough is enough? Not because we have too many people coming in, but not the right kind of people coming in? As intolerant as that sounds, tolerance is exactly what I'm driving at. As illustrated by the story of Gillian Gibbons, a British teacher in Khartoum who faced 40 lashes for allowing her class of 7-year-olds to name a teddy bear Mohammed, different countries have traditions, and one is expected to follow them upon entry. The results can be harsh if you deviate. But America is different. We allow people from many nations to come to America, and being the tolerant, inclusive people we are now allowing the new entrants to not only observe their traditions, but to do so, in some cases, at the expense of our own. Because of political correctness, those traditions found offensive by some are being eliminated one by one, and our national identity is being altered, and not for the good. Many people come to America because the conditions in their native lands are not what they could be, and that's being nice. Some fled religious persecution, poverty, and came to America, their first choice, to begin a new life of freedom. But once the freedom, and PC, gets into their heads, things get ugly. These newly arrived make demands. All of a sudden, our holidays are offensive to them. All of a sudden, they have problems with our schools, workplaces, public meeting areas, our traditions, and our speech. America is a prosperous nation, and to be quite honest, as a person who's seen the third world, I really wouldn't want to see her become one of those nations. But it now appears that the very people who chose to flee their homes are attempting to turn America into that from which they fled. That is becoming the clear reason why some of us believe that unless the new arrivals want to become Americans and cherish all that makes us who we are, they shouldn't bother to come here. If this keeps up, one day America will say no, and immigrants will have no one to blame but themselves. So with 3 weeks left and came to America, their first choice, to begin, and then going off to protest something that we all know what's happened since. Is Barack Obama really going to be? We all know what's happened since. Vic hung out. They are now seeking status, so just to show some faith, that's just as a show of faith, about one thing and one thing, I'll do that one more time. See, I hate the long ones. There's a lot of roadblocks to, next. Whoa. Sort of looking like a Kool and the Gang video. There's a lot of roadblocks to Michael. The beard, that's all, folks.